and she said that you can ask them.
Oh. Oh.
You guys talked about some NSNs earlier with that program. NSNs with us are typically linked to our GSA Global Supply. And our global supply is where our customers get to order directly, and they actually don't have to go through a contracting activity. So they simply get to order right through there, and it shows up on their doorstep, very similar to Amazon would be. Okay. When you're talking about these NSNs, Paul today is going to be looking at a couple things and showing you guys today some different ways to look at data with us. One of our tools is GSA Advantage, which he's going to go through. GSA Advantage is listed by part numbers, not NSN numbers. However, in the GSA Advantage portal, it will identify whether it's a global supply item or not. So if you're ever trying to crosswalk something back, you should be able to do so. So there's all sorts of information that you guys will find in there. There is also some changes that are coming to GSA next week. October 1st, we're supposed to be having, we currently have, I believe, 24 schedules. We're going to one schedule. We currently have over 900 special identification numbers, also known as SINs. These SIN numbers are going to be down to about 300 SINs. All of this is happening, and it's going to be NAICS code driven now for these categories. There'll be a ton of information that's going to be flown out of this over the next couple of weeks, and I'm sure it's going to hit all of your desks, but just to let you know, these are the dates that they were planning for a launch. We do work for the government, and so far nothing has ever gone out on time. So anything could change. And then one of our functions is bringing in hospital assistants when needed, which is how Paul had reached out to Kim, and Kim was gracious enough to set some time to come on here with us this week. We strongly rely on them and to help us out when it comes time for you guys, when you find somebody that wants to get on GSA schedules or know more about it, how they can do it or how they can start planning that for the future. They might never have even had a tax year, but they want to start getting GSA contracts and they can't, right? So, they have to show a couple of years worth of business and a lot, and then they're going to look to see if they were profitable or not. So there's all sorts of different things that they have to show when they're opening a new business. Kim's going to go over all those with you. I'm sorry.
Are you familiar with the PTACs?
We are. We actually send people to you guys as well, so that you guys can help them write up, so they don't have to go pay somebody to, get on GSA schedules, which is a scam. Right? And we see people all the time. They're like, I paid $8,000 to have somebody write this for me, but that's why you're all here.
We were just Pam and I were just talking. We are way over 2 years of having been doing this business.
Okay.
Wow. But my question is have either of you or any of you presented at our National Association APTAC before, which with a major rollout like that, which is a huge change? I can't imagine that the rest of our national colleagues out there wouldn't be interested in hearing this.
They were in Reno.
Did they talk about this rollout?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were, it was great. They were great.
I don't remember the exact person. It was Stephanie.
It was Stephanie.
Stephanie,
Yeah.
okay.
It was very
So
good.
like we were in the casino in Reno?
Yeah.
Yes.
That sounds more like it.
Chicago, actually, in March. It's in Chicago in March.
GSA got in big trouble, by the way. So today we're going to talk, Paul's going to show you guys what's coming up. Do you guys remember the old GSA term expo?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, it's, please don't ever say it again, that word isn't even used anymore. They're scared to death about it, got everybody into a lot of trouble. In fact, there hasn't been an expo at GSA for many years because of the scandal. Right, so, and now what they've done is they felt that they've had such a need, because they kept getting tapped on the shoulder by their customer base, to bring back something like that. So Paul actually is going to discuss that during his presentation. So we are bringing something like that back. I highly recommend, if you guys are looking for training, they are bringing everything they got to this one. So this should be an amazing opportunity for you and your customers, your vendors that are coming to you guys. Some of them might even want to be able to get a booth over there, and I understand they're taking openings for booths right now too. So you might have opportunity for that as well. But, okay, with that, I'm going to give it over to Kim. It's all yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tom, for the introduction. As he mentioned and Tony mentioned, my name is Kimberly Hutchinson. I work for GSA, Office of Small Business Utilization, Oswald, out of Chicago. Tony mentioned the states that we cover in this Midwest area. And I typically work in Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin. I have another colleague, his name is Anthony Outley. He was supposed to be here today, but he has his FAR training he has to complete, like even 2-week FAR class. So my supervisor asked me to step in for Anthony. So I hope that I'm able to rise to this occasion because I've heard that he's really good when he goes out to speak to folks. So I hope I do a good job and share some good information. Initially, I wasn't going to have any slides. I was just going to talk, but that may have been pretty boring. So I wanted to have like a multi-modal type of presentation with combined with speaking and a couple of slides. So I got about maybe less than 10 slides that I'd like to go through. So let's get started, okay? I'm going to cover getting onto schedule. When Tom and Paul initially reached out to me, to our office, they asked if I can present on getting onto GSA schedule. Tony shared that it's a mixed audience of folks who are new and PTACs and some who have many years of experience. So I hope some of the information I share is valuable to each and every one of you at some level.
Can you speak just a little bit louder, Ham, for us back here? Just a thank you so much.
I do have a soft voice. I've been told that. Okay. So, before I begin, I do want to share some information, a little information about GSA, our mission, what our office does to help small businesses, and what our office, GSA, buys and does not buy. Okay? So I'm going to start off with a little background about GSA. The General Services Administration was established on July 1st, 1949 by President Henry S. Truman. The purpose was to consolidate administrative functions across government into one organization in order to avoid senseless duplication, excess costs, and confusion in the handling of supplies and providing space. GSA's original mission was to dispose of war surplus goods, manage and store government records, handle emergency preparedness, and stockpile strategic supplies for wartime. GSA also regulated the sale of various office supplies to federal agencies and managed some unusual operations, which we believe such as plantations in South Hemp plantations in South Africa. Crazy stuff back then. So today, through the two largest offices within GSA, which are PBS and FAST, and various staff offices, GSA provides workspaces to more than 1 million federal civilian workers, oversees the preservation of more than 480 historic buildings, and facilitates the federal government's purchase of high-quality, low-cost goods and services from quality commercial vendors. Now, this is our Oswald office is nationwide. We're in the Great Lakes region, and we have a lot of things that we do out of our office that help small businesses. We have the nationwide responsibility for GSA small business programs, and it's the chief advocates for small and disadvantaged businesses. We promote increased access to GSA's nationwide procurement opportunities and engage in activities that make it possible for the small business community to meet key contracting experts and to receive counsel on the federal procurement process. So basically, we're like a liaison. Oswald, we don't have all the answers within the federal government. We don't even have all the answers within our own agency. But what we do when we interact with small businesses, we're there to connect them with contracting officials or provide them with the information that they're looking for, much like you guys do. We're just there to support them, there to make sure that they receive the correct information and they receive the help that they need. In addition, GSA Oswald monitors and implements small business policies within GSA and manages a wide range of socioeconomic programs managed by law. And in support of the Small Business Administration, we work with SBA Small Business Going Program, AA Small Business Development Program, Woman-Owned Small Business Program, Hubs on Small Business Program, SEEOS Small Business Program, and VOSB Small Business Program. We also collaborate across agency with many GSA officials, including our FAS and PPS business lines. We work closely with agencies outside GSA, plus organizations such as Small Business Coalition, Chamber of Commerce, the Women's Business Development Council, and many other advocacy organizations such as the PTACs. Now, GSA, we don't buy anything out of the Oswald office, the Small Business Office, we don't purchase anything, okay? We're more like advocates for the small business community. So these are just a few of the things that we do. We do a lot more, but that's just a little small list of the things that we do. GSA does have two main business lines, which are FAS and PBS. The FAS business line, it manages the GSA skills program, and we have a public building service that manages the agency's construction and leasing requirements. And I think that's important for you guys to know because you deal with a lot of different agencies, and small businesses are coming to you with for help in aligning them with agencies that may, that may violate the next code. So I'm just sharing this information for those of you who may be new, to working with the PTACs, to let you know what our agencies typically provides. And I'll talk about the schedules program and the steps you need to take in order to help a customer get onto the GSA schedules. But just remember that the schedules program, though you buy a lot of stuff under that program, construction and A&E services are excluded from the schedules program. Okay?
Can I interject on that?
Yes.
So the construction piece of that, if you have anybody that does HVAC equipment, well, if somebody's buying the product from us, we also have ancillary installation. Ancillary installation, in some cases, people might think that that's construction, but it is not. That is allowed. So currently I put up pre-engineered buildings, so that, I did one for 24,000 square feet. So we had to do the foundation, dig it out, and build out the entire thing. Roof everything. So the building was turnkey when it was finished. That also not considered construction under the schedules program because it was a product bought, had to be installed. What I can't do though is like she's talking about with construction is I couldn't put a parking lot in there after that's complete. I can't do infrastructure work for water, sewage, gas lines, things like that. So we can hook to the existing things that are there. We do roof tear-offs and new replacements. Again, that's product and ancillary installation. So if you have folks that you're working with like that, those they would be able to get done under the schedules program.
And as far as FAS, before I move on quickly to what PBS buys and does not buy, FAS, as I mentioned, handles the GSA schedules program, and they also have an area within FAS and with assisted services. So sometimes what FAS would do, like on behalf of like the Air Force, they would go out and they would purchase, they would do a procurement for the airport, so they provide those type of services on FAST, as well as manage the schedule and do a lot of other stuff that Paul will get into during his presentation. As far as PBS goes, what does our PBS Great Lakes region buy? We buy construction and repair and alteration, architect, engineering services, mechanical maintenance and repair, janitorial, elevator, fire inspection, fire alarm, fire safety services, environmental services, landscaping, snow removal, anything that has to do with facilities maintenance, because GSA has a huge portfolio of property that the agency manages. So anything that you can imagine that a company may offer under the facilities management umbrella is what GSA purposes, to keep the building safe, to keep the customer safe, whether it's pictures on lobby walls or federal protective officers in the lobbies of the buildings. That's going to be something that GSA is going to buy. What GSA PBS does not buy, we do not buy building and construction materials or products, IT, technology, although labor service, and that's also procured on a national level. And the reason I say that is because we see a lot of companies who want to do business with GSA, and we just don't buy a lot of things on this regional level. So that's something, that's really important, because people think about GSA and our agency managing the GSA schedule program, and they think we buy everything. We just manage that contract in the vehicle. But as I mentioned, there's specific things that GSA buys through our PBS office. So just keep that in mind as you're being a reference point for for companies you're trying to connect with various agencies.
I'm sorry, what does PBS stand for?
Public Building Services. Okay, so just to do a little review, I talked a little bit about the background of GSA. I talked about GSA's mission, how GSA Oswald helps small businesses. We covered the GSA 2 main business lines, and I shared what our previous regional office buys. Now, I'm going to get into talking about the real reason why Tom asked me to be here, and that's to talk about the mass schedule, the GSA schedules program, and they asked me to cover start to begin, okay? And this is where I'm going to use our GSA website to go into that particular site to show you where all of that information is and the steps to getting onto the GSA program. So, what are schedules, okay? I think everybody pretty much knows or has heard about the GSA schedules program. The MASS program, commonly referred to as GSA Schedule, is a premier commercial acquisition vehicle within the federal government. Schedules are multiple award, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contract contracts for commercial products and services that are available for use by federal agencies. The MASS program provides a fast, easy, and effective contracting vehicle to do business with federal agencies and other eligible users. And when I say other eligible users, there are state and local programs who are eligible to use the GSA Schedules program. So that information, the list of, and even Native American tribes are able to get GSA pricing. Yes.
Just a quick question. Can you tell us when or how a local or state community can access GSA?
Can use the GSA?
Mhm.
Well, GSA does have a state and local program area. They actually work with various like state and local municipalities that are designated as eligible users. So depending on a company's contract, they may have a state or local program attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
So there'll be clauses and provisions within that particular contract that lets them know who is eligible by off of their GSA schedule. Like there was a GSA Schedule 84 for like law enforcement. So we get local fire departments and police officers who were able to get those type of equipment off of that GSA schedule. We have disaster program that is a state and local program that's attached to some next codes in their schedule. So when there's a disaster relief, FEMA or the Corps of Engineers, they can go to that schedule holder's contract and they are eligible for that GSA pricing off of their contract. So all of those clauses, all of those provisions, all of those type of programs that may be attached to a company's GSA contract, they have all the terms and conditions on who they can sell to. And I'll take you to the vendor support center, and it has a link there that you can, it has all of the eligible users who can use the GSA schedule program. So I'll remind you of that.
Hey, Kim, it'd be good to know too, so some states have their own contracts that they build, like GSA builds all of these contracts here that we call schedules. Some states will build their own. When they do that, they want them used. Right? And some get very uptight about it when their purchasing agents seem to try to go around using all what they built. That's for a state. And I can tell you, Illinois is one of those states, they want everything done under their state contracts. Whereas South Dakota, there was provisions written in there where they said if you could get it procured through the federal government, then you could go ahead and do that, and there was no red tape. Every state is different. So you would almost have to look to see what the state rules are here. But setting the state aside and going deeper into the weeds, you still have cities and municipalities. All right, so those folks are not regulated by the state. Now, unless they want to buy off that state contract, they could buy wherever they want to. So oftentimes we'll find out that folks like that will then try to buy. Even some colleges are actually able to buy through the schedules program as well. So it is interesting to know, but so you almost really have to know what your state is up to. Yes.
So do you have like a link or a video or some kind of training that could be shared with the local municipalities to show them, to teach them how to buy off?
We come and train them for you. So if you have cities that have fire department, police department, and other departments that are trying to get some procurement done, Paul will come out and train them for you, and we even have more support on top of that. We actually assign somebody for Region 5 to help assist your customer, or whoever that is at the city and state level, to actually buy it, and they walk them through the entire process so that they can do that. So Paul will be the front guy for the training, and then Ernie Love in our office will actually help them get that to the finish line. So yeah, we actually have all the support you need for those. Oftentimes when we get out to a city like that, what we try to do is get everybody together. So if the police station is telling you one thing, we would say, hey, go talk to the fire department too. Let's get everybody in on this, so that we can get the whole city trained.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And just talking about, to your point about the training, there's a lot of different training that GSA can provide as well, because in addition to what Tom mentioned about the state and local training, we have training from our personal property division. They can come out and they can train you on the programs that are under that particular area, because they handle the access furniture from different agencies and congressional staff who their terms have ended or they're moving or whatever. So they have furniture, they have computers for learning. So they have a lot of stuff. So small businesses who would like furniture, for their, offices or whatever, they can acquire that through the GSA. And I'm sort of getting offline, but I'm just trying to stick to
No, that's a good point.
But yeah, but they can go and they can buy like used furniture, there's auctions, there's all kinds of things that are GSA personal property. So as you're thinking about training for the upcoming new year, for the PTACs, all of this information is important because it's information that small businesses use. They didn't know there are vehicles, there are government auction vehicles, there's furniture, there's computers. And when you're a small business starting out, you don't have all of that money, you know, to go out to buy these new things. And why not get them when we have programs through the government that can help a company acquire these things as a start?
So I guess I'm coming from a PTAC angle, so I'm working with a client who's, well, Kathy, how do I establish this? How do I market my GSA schedule to local municipalities? And so my response would be, if you have a local municipality or someone you want to market it to, you need to be contacting Paul then, right? And then he can come out and they can arrange the training.
You know, I have to be honest with you. So I was at a big Army convention last year, and all of these vendors showed up to show off all of their different items they were selling. The guy that I saw there had this cool video running, and it was for a track system, TRAX. It was a little system that was about this high and this wide, and it folded out as long as this table. It was this wide, and if you got stuck in the snow, you simply just laid out right there in front of your tires, and that thing could pull tanks out of the, so it was unbelievable.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah, I need one for my trunk.
I know, I want one too. It was inexpensive, and I thought, this is the best thing I have ever seen. And it would be easy for all of us to even just have that in our trunk, right? So I said, you must be someone, he's like mad. And he said, no, he says, I've been on GSA contract for 2 years. I haven't sold any of these things.
Wow.
I said, well, how are you marketing yourself? Okay. And and this is the big, common question that keeps coming up with those guys. Well, just because I'm on a GSA contract, doesn't that mean I'm just supposed to start getting business? No, right, and the answer is absolutely not, right? I mean, you're still a business. You still have to do business functions. What the GSA contract does for you is it lets you at least be part of the competitive contract that's going to be awarded to one of these vendors. What's interesting even more about it is if they did go knock on those doors, I'll tell you what I would do. I would stand right outside waiting for the biggest snowstorm to hit. And as everybody drove off that base and got stuck, I'd be pulling that out because they're all in contract, and they'd be, wow, this is amazing, great. What's your card? Let me call you, right? So, and then be right in there and show them that stuff. Most of that stuff is going to be under the SAT anyway, right? Oftentimes it'll even be the minimum under the $25,000 threshold anyway. So if they wanted to, they can award directly to that vendor. It's about making relationships. They've got to knock on those doors, Yes.
So a lot of, I find a lot of the clients that we work with that have a GSA contract and are now looking into marketing, one of the reasons they believe that people are going to knock on their doors is they've usually had one of those companies that they paid to help them do their proposal. That's how they sell it to them, is they say, once you get this, you can just sit back and the phone's going to ring.
Yeah.
And that's how,
Kick
one of
your
the
feet
ways
up.
they kind of reel them in.
Taking all the money.
Yeah.
You'll get your money back.
Yeah, I didn't mean to hijack your conversation, but I hear that all the time, that question.
That's a good one, because, we just, all we can do is like, share that not every agency is gonna buy what you offer. So a lot of times, small businesses, they start out, we see them try to attend every event. We see them try to talk to every contracting official within an agency. And it's like, everybody's not, most people are not gonna be interested in what, the company buys. Yes.
So, for instance, I have an IT client, right? And they want to be able to market their GSA schedule to local. And it would be so much easier as part of their marketing campaign when they were reaching out to the cities, the different cities and the different counties and that, to be able to say at the bottom of their message, click here to learn how to buy off of GSA, instead of, and then folks could go in and watch a video and learn how to buy off of GSA, instead of having to call Paul.
Exactly.
And then arrange for all of that training with the city of Sterling Heights and the city of Macomb County and et cetera. It just, it would just be so much more helpful if there was a video that was made on how to buy off the GSA schedule that we could share with our small businesses as part of their marketing campaign to, local and
We
even
have that
state.
information. I'll show you what it is. We have a video series, it's, I think a 9 or 10 part video series. We have tons of information on YouTube. So I'll show you where to get that information from. And then another resource, I mean, every federal agency, as you know, has hospital offices. So a lot of folks, they call and they contact our office and they want to know how to buy, how to GSA buy in the region. And we have to educate them, like with the IT, you know, we don't buy IT at the local level. It's procured at an enterprise level at our national office. And at our national office for the IT vendors, those vendors who are on contract, when we buy, we have to buy from those vendors. So if they're interested in marketing IT, they, as a they may be a subcontractor to one of the existing contract holders or whatever. So just educating themselves on how an agency is buy. Some next codes are purchased through schedules. Others, you know, are not on schedule. There are tons of other contracting vehicles, IT contracting vehicles that are used in the federal marketplace. So to contact the hospital folks so that they can learn how that agency buys, because it's going to be really difficult for them to get in touch with the contracting official, you know. So start with your hospital people, just like I'm here. Anthony Outley, who's another colleague of mine, Maureen Cruz, is someone else who works out of our office. So if you're interested in contacting someone from GSA, talk to us, and we'll let you know, like, who you should speak with within our agency. Let me see. So with that being said, we talked about what our schedules, okay? So let's move on to talk about, I'm sorry, I apologize, my mom is sick, she's down with pancreatic cancer. So I have sort of have my phone, she's at the hospital right now, so I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm just trying to concentrate on this as well as think about what's going on. That may be somebody. This trying to call me from the doctor, so I apologize for that. Don't mean to be distracted, but if I seem a little distracted, that's the reason why. So why don't you just
Yeah, we'll take the call. We'll take a break.
Take the call.
Go take the
They
call.
have other family members to call, so they do. I'll get the information later. But let's see. Where was I?
Hold up.
Yeah, that's a hard one. We talked about the GSA Schedules program and what that is all about. So let's move on. To get on a schedule is a process, okay? There's many steps that a vendor has to take in order to get on GSA's schedule. So let's look at, do you want to mind if I take
No.
Do you want me, if it go off, you want me to just press it for you?
But we got one consolidation is coming up October 1st. The current schedule holders, what they're going to do is broken up into 3 phases. This is the first phase, then come January, it's going to be a second phase, and there's going to be a final third phase. So current contract holders in the second phase, they're going to do the mass modifications. So things are going to pretty much stay the way they are. They're still accepting schedules that have been submitted prior to October 1st are still going to be processed, so all of that's going to stay the same. I reached out to the mass consolidation folks, and I wanted to ask them about the prerequisites, because getting on schedule, there are prerequisites such as past performance, your pathways to success, training, the readiness assessment, different things like that. I asked them if those prerequisites were going to change, and the consolidation folks got back and said, no, that process is going to stay the same. So what's going to happen after the consolidation, the mass modifications, as well as clauses and provisions are going to have to be updated in current contract holders' contracts. So these are ahead of here. Ahead of frequently asked questions for the mass consolidation.
Is that the one on the PDF?
Yes, it is. I see it up here. It's here on the screen, but it's not there.
Oh, how do we flip? It's here.
Right click.
No, you have to be able to open up the PDF.
Jasmine,
You want to do it?
I believed you.
You want me to go there?
I teach you.
I also have a clicker if she wants one.
Oh, that's what changed the
So she can
display.
walk around the room. Yeah, I think so.
Sorry, guys. And the reason I have this frequently asked questions slip sheet is because I'm not part of the mass consolidation team. So I'm not gonna get into the weeds about that program. I hope many of you were able to attend the webinar that they did last week, September 17th or the 19th. Stephanie, who's the director of that effort, she provided a lot of resources.
There you go.
Show your match. A lot of websites that you can go to. and what
This should be
I recommend
entertaining.
you If you're not familiar with the GSA Interact.
The young person up there.
Community.
She about to just
Are you
try to
guys
figure it out.
familiar
She
with
don't know
GSA
she doing.
Interact? Okay, so I just encourage you to let your companies know that they should join that community to stay abreast of what's going on with the mass consolidation. Everything that comes down the pipeline, they're gonna share through that Interact mass community, okay?
I got a question.
Yes.
Do she plan on doing another one of those training sessions?
I believe for this initial rollout, those 2 training sessions last week, are probably it, until the end of the month. Now, whether they do or not, that information will be posted on that GSA Mass Consolidation, community platform. And that's a question that you can, they have the mass email, they have a mass consolidation email. So any questions, any concerns, anything you want to know about, or your industry partners want to know about, I would recommend them going to that community. Would you guys like me to pull it up to show you where it's at?
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be great.
Okay. Well,
There it is. Yeah.
okay, thank you so much.
All right. We good, girl.
If it don't work out for PTAC, I'm going into IT.
I like it.
Judge, so thank you very much for working
I want you to tell Matt.
Okay.
So thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
We appreciate you.
This right here is a frequently asked questions. This is part of the resource that Stephanie shared, and they answer a lot of questions about the mass consolidation. I know customers want to know, how am I going to be affected? What do I need to do? So they can go to the website and GSA Interact Mass Group, and they have a recording. If you missed the training last week, they also recorded it, so you can go and you can look at the recording again. They had a lot of great information, and there are a lot of questions that companies ask. So yeah, just go to GSA Interact, you can just Google it, GSA Interact. And once you get there, there's community. The good thing about that, under the old schedule system, any schedule, whether it's schedule 70, schedule 03 FAC, schedule, professional services schedule, they had a community group for all of those different schedules. So anybody can join, and you have access to contracting officials, you would have access to the mass people. So anything you needed to know, you can go onto that community and ask your questions and participate in training and different things like that. So it's really good. Here's a lot of general information. They're talking about the 24 schedules that are included in the consolidation. They're also mentioning about the 9 VA schedules there. What is the strategy? As I mentioned, there are 3 phases. So they have all of the information. How's it going to affect category management? They discuss, SIN numbers and business sizes and task orders and all of the information you need to know. So if there's any question out there, there are subject matter experts out there that you can talk to get the help that you need or the help for your customers that they need. Okay? And let's just go. I'll show you. Let's see. Let's go. Where's the internet right here? Let's go here.
So I have a quick question.
Yes.
Why are they combining all these schedules? Is it supposed to be easier for the government purchaser or easier for the small business, or the businesses to get on?
Well, the things that the agencies do are what's good for the agency. It's just like the schedules program. It's just like the schedules program. I mean, the schedules program, as I mentioned, like when I first started speaking, a little background about GSA, how President Truman, how he consolidated all of these other agencies into one agency, and that's how GSA was established, so that there wouldn't be acquisition duplication across the federal government. So what the federal government does, they typically do what's good for the agency. And the category management, as well as the consolidation of the schedules, they think that it's good because a lot of, if you really look and examine it, some of those next codes are sort of like duplication. Because you may get customers to say, hey, look, it looks like I'm under this schedule, but then my next code can be under this schedule. So
Right.
then I have to say, well, you should call the mass contracting officer so that they can tell you what is the best schedule for the next code. So some of those things sort of like merge together with those next codes. So in all of the hard work that the mass folks did, they, found out what are the similarities and how they can combine into one schedule. So it's really to make it easier for the government. We're always moving and pushing, the envelope to try to change things, hopefully to make it better and easier and more effective for the agencies. And then, we're hoping that contractors, they benefit. We're hoping that. And they had ample opportunity for feedback from the industry partners with this consolidation to hear what their concerns are, what, their fears may be. So it was an open platform for all of the good and bad that folks could have seen, this consolidation. Okay. So, did I answer your question?
Yes.
So, here's GSA Interact for you. What's your name? And you asked.
Delana?
Elena. Here's the GSA Interact, and this is a community. And what you can do, you can go, the customer will have to go, and they just have to create, like the government wants them to, a password, username, password, word, and just join that mass Interact community. I will go on, I forgot my password. But I will let you know how that is. But see, they have a group here for the multiple award schedule. Let me see if they can pull us something. So what's happening? So yeah, just join that group. And I would recommend all of you all to join that group as well, if you are not already in there. Okay?
So we could join?
Anybody can join.
Okay.
Anybody. It's open to, and we highly encourage you guys to join as well. They have all kinds of webinars and training and seminars for you to stay there. So you'll know, because sometimes, I have to admit, sometimes when I'm out there speaking to some of these businesses, they tell me information that I wasn't even aware of. So I'm like, well, let me go and check this out, because I didn't hear anything like that, So, and there's also all kinds of subscriptions that you can subscribe to, whether it's Fed News, there's all kinds of publications out there to keep you informed of what's going on. Okay, so yeah, definitely, as far as the consolidation, I'm just gonna end it with, please join GSA Mass Interact Consolidation Group, okay? And you can download the frequently asked questions and everything, okay? So, let's go to GSA.gov, because I'm going to take you where you can find the information on the steps, start to finish, on getting on GSA. do too, when I'm speaking to someone, in a different state who's unable to make it down to the office, we just got hop on the phone and they sit in front of their computer and I'm in front of my computer. And I just help them navigate to the website. So just go to GSA.gov. And here, we have a small business icon here, and, go down a little bit. This just talks about the GSA Oswego office and lets you know a little bit about what we do. And here we have a lot of tabs that you can go into to get additional information. And our, what's your name? Kathy. Kathy, you asked earlier about like training in the videos and whatnot. On this site, we have a lot of training videos and different things like that that you can recommend your customer to go to. There's a getting started with the GSA schedules video, becoming a schedule video. We have different webinars about different contracting vehicles that the government, uses to procure various products and services from. So here's, something that you can, refer them to. Let's see. There's also, let me see. Doing business with GSA video. And this is the video series. Here's a video series here that is a 10-part video, and it walks you through the introduction of GSA, the various business lines, about subcontracting and how that works, the GSA roadmap, which is something, are you familiar with the GSA roadmap? It's a GSA mass roadmap, and it's an outline of every step that a contractor will need to go through in order to get on the GSA schedule. So this roadmap is about sustainability, because we have sustainability requirements and all of the different contracts. So that's information that may be helpful about the forecast tool, how we advertise potential contracting opportunities through our forecast tool. And then we have various videos for particular associated households that you may work for and how they can do business.
Question.
This is just some of our video series. So now on GSA.gov, let's see. So, right here is the guide to preparing the mass offer. And it's actually, at the bottom of this page, is the mass roadmap. And this is gonna outline all of the steps that a GSA contractor has to take in order for him to get on the GSA schedule. Under the Get Ready tab, there are multiple things that are required training, such as pathways to success training and a readiness assessment, assembling your offer, and then finalizing your offer, okay? So let's look under the Get Ready tab and see what's under the Get Ready tab. So, under the Get Ready tab, there's training requirements. There's the pathways to success training, and there's the readiness assessment training. The Pathways to Success is a webinar training. I believe it's the 5 chapters in that particular training, maybe about 60-minute webinar. And it walks the contractor through everything that they need to know, what's expected, whether it's the IFF fee, that industrial funding fee that they're gonna have to pay, whether it's reporting requirements, how to upload their information onto GSA Advantage. So that training, that Pathways to Success training is mandatory. And after they complete the readiness assessment training, this is pretty much, I look at it like a checklist, like I got this done, I have completed this and whatnot. So the readiness assessment training is also required. So, that's under the Get Ready tab. And as far as like the pathways to success training, let's look at that. Let's see. Okay, we'll go to that when I get to the vendor support center. I wanted to take you to the vendor support center so I can show you where that pathways to success training is. But also under the Get Ready tab, as you can see here, in addition to the training, there's registration. So of course you need a DUNS number, you have to be registered in SAM, and also there's like a small dynamic business search within SAM that they should register for as well. The digital certificate right here, everything is pretty much done electronically, so they can apply for their digital signature. Just to go back, we need to stay on this page. And yeah, so this involves like getting a certificate and different things like that. The digital certificate, open ratings is your past performance. They will need to have that. Who have basically been their past customers, okay? Their past work experience. And then they ask you to read the solicitation. And this is pretty much going to stay the same with consolidation. And I think Paul is going to cover like how you can identify like what's appropriate schedule for you. He's going to take you through e-library, a little bit about e-library. And that's how companies can identify what schedule they need to fit for their website. Okay, so we mentioned training, the two training, and we mentioned the different registrations that are required. And going to our GSA site, it will tell you what those steps are, okay? So the next step is assembling their offer. So they have to get a lot of things together in terms of the paperwork and the documents regarding consolidating their offer. So under the assembling your offer, we see that there are two major things that they need to complete, which are the different forms. So if there's a supply letter, some companies, what they do, they're on schedule and they need a supply letter from the person who they'll be acquiring their products and services to sell through the government. So they have to get that letter from that supplier. They need an authorization letter, an agent authorization letter. They have to determine what their pricing is going to be. We have a template for them to use here, and they need their financial statements. If they're a large company, even with the mass, there are subcontracting requirements. If they're going to get a purchase of $700,000 for services or anything over $1.5 million for construction, they need a subcontracting plan, any technical proposals. So they have to get all of that information together within the technical proposal. Let's look what's in there. The technical proposal details information and examples of their company's experience that can prove that they can provide the products and the services that they plan on offering to the federal government. Okay? Let's see. So these are all of the steps that they have to compile. In the commercial pricing, we want the best price that the company has to offer. Any pricing narratives that they have to explain, like why they're charging this, if this, you know, what you pay the prices, the narratives, what price they decide to charge the government. Sometimes it may be a little bit higher, you know, but they have to explain and provide justification. And all of these documents and information are required as they gather their information to complete the proposal to submit to the particular solicitation. So these steps by
And that, it'd be good to know too, there's a price reduction clause that they'll put together with that. So if they decide one day that they want to sell to Bob down the street for cheaper than what they gave the government, whenever he did that, if we catch that, we'll go back to the date that that was caught, and he'd have to fix all of the contracts that he sold from the moment he changed that price for Bob for all those government contracts that he charged more to. So they can't go charging the government $3,000 for a hammer and sell it on the street for $5, right?
So I got a question in regards to that. Now, I have a client that actually sells numerous products to one particular company, okay? I got to give the same pricing to the government as I do this customer who constantly purchases products from me, not knowing whether or not the government is actually going to
Whether to
purchase
buy
it.
them or not. So
Yeah.
that's the justification she just talked about. So if it
Okay.
has to be higher than that best customer that they're selling to for a reason, because they don't know if they're gonna get that volume, that's the justification. She says we have to be
Okay,
selling it.
okay.
Good question. Okay, so these are all of the steps that, they would have to, complete as they gather all of their information to submit their offer. And then the final step is finalizing their offer. And that involves, submitting your offer, to the contracting official. They're gonna review that offer and have discussions with you if there's any changes or any questions that they may have regarding any information provided. And this is the review and negotiation, part, of your particular solicitation. So, and, once that's completed, if the offer is accepted, then there's other steps that you have to do. The company has to go, they have to upload their information onto GSA Atlantic. And that's where the vendor support center comes in handy. They work with software, that helps them upload all of their terms and conditions and pricing and pictures of all of their products and services. Is everyone familiar with GSA Atlantic? And basically, the GSA roadmap that we just looked at as far as get ready, as far as assembling the offer, and as far as finalizing the offer, are basically the steps that any company has to take to get on the GSA schedule. Okay? Yes.
Is IT like fast lane the same steps? Is that something different?
IT fast lane is like a streamlined process to get on a GSA IT schedule. And there's certain products and services that fall under there, that allow you to go through this fast lane. It's a streamlined process. It's supposed to take a little, it's supposed to be quicker to get on schedule if your next code falls under that fast lane. We do get a lot of questions about that from vendors, and there's actually a person in Washington DC that works with the IT schedule 70 and fast lane, IT contracting, IT solicitation, who I refer folks to. Because it's one thing, you know, and I'm not a person who tries to always refer folks to other folks. But bottom line is this: people contact our office and they contact you, and they want accurate information. And if I don't have that accurate information, and that's not my area of expertise, such as the mass consolidation solicitation schedule, I'm going to refer you to the people who actually do that work, who actually are knowledgeable and are actually able to provide you and the company the accurate information. Therefore, like I mentioned before, OSPU is like a liaison between contracting officials and other resource folks out there that we sort of connect folks to get the information that you need. And in that case, I will refer them to the Schedule 70 people. And I'll make sure, because I'll follow up to make sure that they receive the answers to the questions that they were concerned about.
Thank you.
Okay, so I can close out the action on mine. Because the last thing I want them to do is to be transferred all over the place. And then, give the
That was a great question, by the way, that you asked. And,
Thank you.
In fact, in hindsight, I probably should have brought that up earlier. And I know for a lot of you folks that are new, GSA, you know, she went through the entire process here of how, you know, to get onto these schedules. You can see it's cumbersome and can take some time, even with PTAC help, right? But there was the program that we put out called the FAST program. It was designed only for IT as a pilot to see, you know, how fast that we could get people onto schedules. Emerging technologies, it was very important to be able for us to get people added on right away. So that's why that program was put together. Modifications were done within 24 to 48 hours of existing contracts. So it was set for that, to where what normally could take up to a couple-year process could be done to a couple, 3 months to be coming up with a GSA contract. We've all been waiting for them to say they were going to start doing that with other than IT, but we still haven't gotten to that point yet. But there is more to come on that. We're excited and hoping that that happens. It would still have to have all of the information that she's talking about, though. You know, it's just a faster way to get them on there, so.
Why is it faster? I mean, how do they make it faster? Is it they put more resources?
They
on
did.
it?
IT is one of the biggest GSA contracts that we have, along with professional services. So they threw just all the money at that, because that's where typically most of the revenue comes through.
Did it make it longer though for the non-fast?
It didn't, because everybody has their own departments for each, you know.
So they didn't steal from one to make the other one
No,
faster?
they probably would now, though. They're not really bringing on more people right now.
Staffing.
So.
More people.
Just saying it because we're government.
I'll ask you a question, Tom, right?
Yes.
Tom. Got a question. Now, are you guys gonna talk about once you actually get on the schedule? I have a question in regards to the 2-year, $25,000 requirement.
Well, as discussed earlier, we don't like to answer things that we don't have the answer to unless, so what I do is I refer them. That's going to Q.
Well, you know, and the reason why I say that, and I talked a little bit about it, is that I just so haven't had a client that actually did everything that they were required to do in regards to marketing, and I actually explained the GSA as a Amazon for the federal government. That's how I explain it to my clients. And I tell them it's just like you have a fishing license. You know what? You can't go fishing if you don't have a fishing license. But if you have a fishing license, don't expect to catch any fish if you don't go out and fish. Okay? And so my client went out and fished. They went out, they knocked on doors, they've been to all different types of, all of the different VAs. They went to the National Veteran Business Conference that they actually have. They can provide a whole listing of events that they attended, dollars they actually have spent, only because they want to do work with the VA. They're a veteran-owned small business. They stated in order for you to actually, they're certified through the CVE. They said, if you want to be able to do business with us, then you have to get on the schedule.
So they might be able to get a hold of their contracting person at GSA to talk to them about.
We did.
Okay.
We did everything. Thank God for the PTAC, okay? Because they had got kicked off of the schedule.
Oh,
Okay?
they did?
They did.
Okay.
And we
Was
provided
it the
them with.
VA schedule or the GSA schedule?
It was the VA.
Okay.
It was a VA. And it just so happened we provided them with lists of everything that we've done, every contracting officer that we sat down and we spoke to at these VAs, where they actually, it's a stand-up wheelchair.
Okay.
Okay, and the stand-up wheelchair, they actually manufactured, they created it, they invented it. Well, this stand-up wheelchair that they're selling, they would say, well, you know what? It's prosthetics that actually is the one you need to be seen. So we'll go out, and I've been there with them, do all types of presentations. Prosthetics says, nope, it's the physical therapist that makes the decision. So it's just like they keep telling us, this person, this person, this person. Okay, thousands of dollars we spent going out, meeting with these VAs, no sales. When they did get it sales from them, it was because the VA contacted them directly, not off of their schedule. Okay, right off their schedule. So had we now went all the way to the director of Hines, or the FSS, they would have been kicked off the schedule. So how can they justify the fact that you tell me that if I can provide you a justification stating that I've done all this marketing, spent all this money attempting to, because they can't make the VAs do business with them.
And the VA, we truly have no control over what the VA does under the VA schedules. They actually manage and monitor those. That's we can only do under the GSA schedules that we have any authority to do anything at all. But is there a way to ask for additional time on there or not?
What we generally do in a case like that, there are different folks that, the companies, should be working with, to help manage their schedules. There's a procurement contracting officer, there's an administrative contracting officer, and there's also a contracting officer. So the contracting officer is the person who actually negotiates and, the contract on behalf of the government. There's an administrative contracting officer who just makes sure that the company has all of their information and their paperwork done. And then there's a procuring contracting officer. And there are also customer service specialists who the person on schedule should be working with, because they have to document that, look, we went to networking sessions, we've had one-on-one meetings with potential buyer agencies, we've did research in federal procurement data system. We've been looking at SSQ, scheduled sales query, to find out which contractors are reporting their scheduled sales for this particular schedule. We've done everything that's possible in terms of federal agency to come and buy off of us. So they have a justification and they have documentation of what they've been doing. And you talk to, it's communication. They can't be afraid to talk to their contracting officer who manages their contracting GSA schedule to find out what other alternatives are out there for them. Because we're aware, we know when we're slow at GSA, when our funds are dwindling down, and when we're just not buying a lot of stuff. So, you know, other agencies like the VA, they should ask the questions like, you know, are the funds available? You know, when are you gonna start buying again? You know, the agency and the technical people within that agency, they know what they're gonna be spending their money on. Looking at the agencies, the VA, they should have a contract of forecast of contracting opportunities on their website. Look to see what they're planning on buying, what they plan on attaching their budget to for that particular year, so that you'll have justification on the agencies that typically purchase from you. Running reports and having that in a documentation, FPS report on who's buying what, you know, who's spending where, can help support that company not meeting their $25,000 sales criteria. Because, hey, if the federal agencies don't have money, they just don't have money. It's nothing that we can do about that. So you can't really start kicking all of these people off the schedule because the agencies don't have money. It's not the company's fault though. So in those situations, yes, ma'am.
Forgive me if you guys answered that, but it used to be where if you, even if it was a non-GSA schedule, if it was a federal organization, that you could still apply that IFF or that count that.
Criteria.
That,
If it's
yeah,
one of those
to your
eligible
25,000 minimum.
Yeah, if it's one of those eligible users who's eligible to buy on those contract. So it just can't be anybody willy-nilly.
Yeah, it could be Bob Smith, it's gotta be some agency.
Well, I mean, that's what I mean, like,
What a great question though, and I tell you, I've heard many people have done that in the past before, they're like, no. They make sure that it goes on and they're happy
yeah,
to pay that.
so that it
just
goes
they don't-
towards that, yeah, was it IFF?
The IFF, internal
How much is
funding.
that now?
It's .075, it's less than 1%.
So they make them go through the schedule.
Yeah, so they have to
Yes.
have a minimum, they have to pay that 0.075%, that go, so that they can track how much is being sold through GSA. And, you know, that comes out of the price of whatever, you know, they're purchasing. Some people, even though the sale didn't come through the GSA, but it's a eligible federal agency, they can still apply that sale to their, you know, pay the IFF and put that sale as applicable to the $25,000 minimum, so they don't get kicked off.
But it has to be a product that they sell.
It has to be an eligible federal agency, they just said, which I don't know where you find that out. Like if it's a DOD buy, right? I mean, can you apply that?
Yeah, reported in the scheduled sales query, the SSQ.gov. That's where contractors, scheduled contractors report to the sales from.
Yes.
So for instance, one of our clients used their sales from DLA to go towards their 25,000, and they were able to stay on schedule
Yes.
because of their sales through DLA.
Yes, they didn't get
kicked off. They didn't get kicked off.
And they probably didn't even have to add the IFF on that, because DLA hit their own.
Yes.
Right. You know what, while we're on the quick subject here of forecasting that Kim had brought up, it reminds me. So, you can try to find the forecasting schedules for this for your customers to get them pointed in the right direction. Paul works almost every day over at TACOM over there in Warren. There's a small business office at just about every one of these Department of Defense installations. Rock Island, where I spent a lot of time down in the Quad Cities, they have a small business office, and they actually have an email list, and every time that they get all of their procurements together, they e-blast all the vendors on this list. So the vendors don't have to go looking for it, they're now on the list and they just get e-blasted all the time. So the recommendations you could help your people with your sales too, to try to look for things like that. If they're not doing forecasts and they want to be part of the e-blast list, and they don't even have to be on a government contract to do that. Because, the government's all about growing small businesses, so they might not necessarily, they might be painters, and then the garrison is looking for a bunch of painting to be done. So they would post that out there. They don't have to be on a GSA contract. Ultimately, they would want to be over time, and that's a good way to build up years of sales, so that when they finally do come in and try to get qualified, they can show they have the history and all the rest of it. But so it's probably a good idea if you share some of that information with your. Yes.
Last question pertaining to IT. What's the difference between, the big difference between SOUP and IT?
Well, NASA SOUP is an IT program. It's
Right.
So it's a government-wide contract, right? So it's very similar to our Alliant Small Business contract and our Alliant Large. So we have GWACs that are set up for, and actually Paul was going to be talking about that later too. So we have 8A stars. We have, which is just for anyone that's IT that and they're an 8A, they can be in there.
Let me clarify that. The difference between SOUP and Fastlane.
Okay. NASA SOUP is not a GSA contract.
That's okay. That's the biggest. Okay.
Nobody likes soup anyway. You're going to GSA, GWACs.
Those people are always crawling all over in the NCMA conference, the NASA SOUP people.
One of the biggest things they tout is their IFF is half of yours.
Yeah, it is. It's .375. Yeah, we hear that a lot. Our support is second to none to those guys. I have our folks that are on that base just about 40 hours a week. We do all the market research for the contracting people. We even do their RFIs. So we have some powerful stuff, which is why Army and our Air Forces, they like to go with us on that stuff. They might get a little discount if they go NASA SOUP, but they're doing all the work themselves. They got to call in. They're spending tons of time on it. We reduce PALT for these agencies from 3 to 6 months. You can't touch that with that .375 that they're saving. So our customers know that it's a better value to use GSA, even though they're paying that higher IFF. Now, on the GWACs, when it's NASA SOUP to GSA, we have a max cap on that anyway. So the max that they would pay is, what is it? $120,000. So if they were doing a $300 million contract, they'd be capped at that 120. Not with NASA SOUP. NASA SOUP, they'd have to continue to pay beyond that, so they'd actually wind up paying more on that.
Okay, thank you. Well,
Yeah, these fee questions come up all the time, I find. We're prepared to box on those fees.
Well, that was some good discussion. Thank you for your questions, and thanks, Thomas, for jumping in now. So I'm just gonna take about 5 more minutes, because Paul, I don't wanna use up all the time. I didn't realize I was up here this long. So I just went to the Vendor Support Center just to wrap this up for you guys who may not have been on this site before. And it has a lot of great information. Under here, for folks who were concerned about like the marketing, we have a lot of marketing websites here. Talk about forecast, USA spending, that reports like what our government agencies spending their money on. PTACs are mentioned, e-library, they do market research. to see who may be on schedule, see who their competitors are, look at
Can you
their
click on the
pricing.
PTAC link just so we can see what it says?
Oh, yeah. I think it takes you to the PTAC site.
I hope not.
Wait, let's see if you guys are on here. Let's see who's on here.
Oh, that'd be.
I want to go home. Let's see, Michigan. Let's see who's here.
Harold?
Are you, is this, you guys right here? Wait.
Well, that's us.
There's a, see, we're right.
Here you go, Auntie. There's no reason bad cat there.
Oh my goodness, you and this charcuterie.
You're here, so folks know that you're here, yeah. So and these are just some of the marketing, there's a lot of resources. Schedule sales queries, you can purchase from our mass contract. Let me see if that takes us to, these are the largest mass customers here, you know, state and local governments. So it's all kind of information on this vendor support page. Under the education, it's actually administration. Talks about the modifications. It tells about the reporting requirements. Then it's in here about the IFF fee, the 72A reporting. So it gives you information about reporting, how to keep your contract in compliance, regarding provisions, clauses, different things like that. Contract management. It has all of the information about contract management here. What documents make up my GSA contract. So it's a lot of information under reporting. I think this is the link that actually takes you to all of these videos right here. It takes you to steps to success, new contract orientation, PowerPoint presentation, new contractor webinar, the pathways to success, which was one of the training requirements that you have to take. If you go to this site right here, they have to register. Let's see. This training right here, it's a really good training. If you use under PTACs, you have taken this training. It has pathways to success, educational seminar, the new contractor orientation webinar, and the vendor toolbox. All of the good information that a company would need in order to get on schedule and maintain and manage their scheduled contract. In the Pathways to Success training, you just launch it. It talks about just about everything you want to know about the Schedules program. It gives you an overview.
Welcome to GSA's Pathways to Success training.
Who was that?
I know we had to exit the pool,
Pathways to Success. Am I the only one that got scared?
That's my dog you
I'm looking at the men and I don't think their voice sounded like that. She's like, what's going on?
What's a good dog you have?
Yeah, so it's a lot of good information on the Pathway to Success training. So basically, let's just wrap this up so Paul can get up in there. Okay, so we talked about, let me see, what did we talk about? We talked about the mass consolidation. We talked about the mass roadmap, like the steps to outline, being ready, assembling the offer, and finalizing the offer, so you can access that on the GSA.gov website. We went to the Vendor Support Center, where under various tabs, you can find out how to manage the contract, find the different training that the customer has to take, and all of the information that you need to get onto GSA schedule. Okay? Yes.
Kim, I know they're going to share your slides with everybody, but could you put together the list of links that you were going through today, send it to Paul so you can share it with all of them as well?
Oh, okay, I sure can.
Would that be helpful for you guys?
Yes.
The only two
Yeah.
things that I really went to were the GSA.gov link, and we looked at the mass roadmap, and then the vendor support center. And then through the vendor support center is how you can access all of these other tabs. But I'll be happy to share that information as well, and we also talked about the mass consolidation, how you could join GSA Interact community to stay abreast of what's going on.
I would also personally enjoy the slides.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
We'll get into them. We'll get into
No
them.
problem, we'll make sure.
Even the talking one?
Yeah.
The creepy talking?
Slides that she presented.
Okay, so I hope the information was helpful. I hope that it was something to take away that each and every one of you can walk away and maybe that I said it's something that'd be helpful to you moving forward. Thank you again, Paul, Tom, and Tony for inviting me here. Hope I wasn't disappointed. Thank you for your generosity and understanding why I had to go take a phone call. And I have business cards, if you might know, for me to get into business.
Thank you. So what we're gonna do is, the mass consolidation, we've got that printed out for you guys over there.
My hands
And
are
we'll
killing
be emailing
me. The smell
you slides,
stinks.
PowerPoint presentation. So at this point, we're going to get ready for Paul to come up and to do his piece of the.
Is it rude if I go?
And was everyone having a quick break? I am the local customer service director for GSA for the state of Michigan. And that's my boss, Tom Michigan. And so, so I'm a Navy veteran. So I actually have been with GSA for, just a little over a year and a half. I actually came over from industry. So I was in the Navy. It's been 21 years. I'm in the industry, not with a small business, a very large business. And so now with GSA. So what does a customer service director do? So I do all kinds of things. So I am your local point of contact. So I'm like the face of the GSA here in Michigan. So I can get you plugged in to all the right people. So, if you need training, if you need information, if you need information on policy, any of that kind of stuff, you can contact me.
Concert tickets.
Yeah.
Seats for the Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Yeah, hey, yeah. So I work with contractors a lot. I work with the program offices. As these requirements come through. I help determine, we talked about the SIN, the identification numbers. And so I help, our customers and our vendors determine, where they should fall within GSA. I also work to, expedite getting contracts modified. For instance, if somebody needs a widget and we have widgets, but we don't need pink widgets, and we need a pink widget, I can go ahead and work with the vendor and with our contracting officer to get those modified and get them onto the schedule. And I do other things too. I do market research for the customers, as well as assist them in actually doing the acquisitions. So I'm going to throw a lot of information at you today. And, it's just a lot of information. It's hard to remember all of it. So if you remember one thing, just remember 1-800, call Paul, okay? Don't dial that number. So use the number on the card. But it's easy to remember. Someday I'm going to call them and apologize. Say, you know what? It rhymed with Paul. I'm going to tell you. And so, so basically the way it works is contracting or program office will send me the requirement. And they'll ask me, okay, does GSA have a solution? And if we do have a solution, you know, what schedule is it under, what SIN is it under, how many vendors do you have, who are the vendors. So I provide all that information to them, and then I get it back. So we talk about schedules. You hear the term like federal supply schedule, or a MAS schedule, or a GSA schedule. There is no difference. They're all the same thing. It's just a different way that people say it. So we have, our multiple award schedules. And so, of course, we're going to be doing this consolidation. And, I'm going to show you guys the e-library as it is now. And it's going to change. But the basics are still going to be the same. We will have these, different SINs or subcategories to where these things, fall. We also have, these IDIQ contracts, BMO, HCATs, OASIS. So now these are more like services, like OASIS. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. But it's like a government-wide contract, typically, say, for professional services. HCATs, which is like a training type. It stands for Human Capital and Training Services. And then, of course, we have, we do PTACs, purchase agreements as well. And a lot of these, because our schedules are so well put together, they're actually used very often as a basis to create these BPAs. Then you have like the GWACs. So these are government-wide contracts, typically focused around IT. So you have, things like 8A Stars, Alliance 2, VETS, VETS 2 now. And so these, are very popular because they have things like OASIS and 8A Stars, where they can do direct awards to 8A companies. That makes them very popular.
That's also the competition, these here to the NASA SIP you guys had asked about earlier. And also, you guys think about this, this multiple award schedules, it's no longer going to be multiple because we're going to one. So if it's no longer mass, drop the M. Something I've been thinking about. Makes you go.
So then we also have other programs like network services, different things like you've heard like networks, things like that. We just stood up one called EIS, which is like telecommunications, things like that. So a lot of our schedules are considered best in class. They have a best in class certification, and they have our customers have certain goals that they have to hit, and things like using best in class schedules. So this is just just sort of a sampling of all the different schedules we have, and we have a lot of schedules. We have a lot of products. As well as OASIS, BMO, HCATs, these are also all best in class. So, I'm going to give you a very high-level overview of GSA and our schedules. And what I can tell you is that next year, out there in Atlanta, we are going to have FAST 2020. And so this is definitely not GSA Expo. This is FAST 2020. Okay, so everybody who knows everything about GSA is going to be there. The GSA will be there, vendors will be there, buyers will be there, and so I highly recommend getting out there for this.
Is that free?
Tom, is that free?
It used to be free.
Yes.
It said free for, go back, it said free for government. Are we government?
They'd qualify you guys, and I'd be curious to see.
They used to.
I'm thinking around.
Is that how Expo was?
Okay, yeah, the expo was free.
Okay, my guess is that would be too, because it's sponsored by vendors, so the vendors get the boost, and that's truly the funding that covers
Yeah.
everything. So I would imagine all participants are going to be free.
Okay, so when the government buys something, right, so they are regulated by the Federal Acquisition Regulation, right, or the FAR. And, so the FAR, under FAR Part A, they have mandatory sources that they have to look at first, okay? This is under FAR 8.2. So basically, the first thing they gotta look at is agency inventory. Do they already have it? That's number one. Number two is does anybody else have it? Right? Do any other federal agencies, have it? So if you look on, we have a site called GSA Access, where you can, our customers can put excess inventory they have on there. It's mostly like furniture. There's a lot of furniture on there. And then Federal Prison Industries, Unicore, and then Ability One, which is companies that hire the severely disabled. And then wholesale supply sources. So where it says GSA, everything means GSA Global Supply. So that is, and that's right there with DLA, VA, and then like your other mandatory contracts that they have. On the service side, as far as mandatory goes, it just goes straight to Ability One. Okay, if an Ability One vendor can do it, they got to give it to them.
Hey, go back one second. So Kim talked a little bit about this earlier for this GSA access. If, she mentioned that if you had somebody that was trying to do an office build out or whatever, this actually is really not where they're going to. They actually would go to, once it leaves excess, which means no federal agencies want it, then the state can pick it up. So every state has what they call a spot, right? A special point of contact for the state for these excess programs. So there's one listed in each state, and they simply would be able to go through there and go check their inventory to see what they have, pick it up, and they would buy it from them at a very discounted rate. So oftentimes a lot of people will go through that to get set up for any types of equipment, generators, all sorts of stuff. That are out there.
Okay, so if a federal agency gets through all their mandatory sources, okay, let's see, FAR Part 8, then they move on to FAR 8.4. All right, so these are highly encouraged. So the government has an initiative to use existing government contracts. It saves time, it saves money. So that's where you start seeing, GSAs, the federal supply schedules, the GWACs, the government-wide acquisition contracts, things like that. They're pretty much the same on both supplies and services, with the exception on the services that you have the Federal Prison Industries, or Unifor. So these, so the schedules, we have over 27 million different products and services that are offered through GSA, which is a lot. And it is absolutely everything that you could possibly think of. Everything from, literally, toilet paper to armored trucks. It runs the whole gamut. So when the government goes to buy something, okay, they have something called the micro purchase threshold, right? It's like $10,000. So if they're buying something that's under that micro purchase threshold, they can literally go onto GSA Advantage, that I'm going to show you guys in a minute, and they can pretty much throw in the cart, check out. Throw in a credit card, they're done. So now if they're over $10,000, but they're under 250,000. Now, 250,000 is what's called the simplified acquisition threshold, right, or the SAT. So if they're in between those two, there's a couple other things they got to do. They have to survey 3 vendors, which they do on Advantage. We have a price waterfall that kind of comes down, and they can look at it. They've now surveyed as many vendors as they need. And then once it gets over the SAT, then they have some other things they got to do. That's where you start seeing things that end up on GSA's eBuy or FBO. So eBuy is the GSA version of FBO. So that's where they would put out their quotes and sources sought type stuff. So we always tell them if you're going GSA, you pretty much need to stay in GSA. And the reason on an acquisition, and the reason that is because the GSA schedules make acquisitions faster, they're streamlined. So there's a lot of requirements that the government has to do if they don't use a GSA schedule. They gotta write a synopsis, they gotta do all kinds of stuff. So as long as you're using GSA, a lot of that stuff is already cut out. So it makes it a lot faster. If you try to compete on both, well, now you're no longer covered under that section of the phone about using GSA. And now you're back to having to, comply with the entire FAR. So, and things like, when we put an item on there, right, GSA's already determined what is fair and reasonable pricing. Okay, so it takes that step out completely for them. Of course, we do have the best pricing. We continually monitor that. The prices you see on Advantage, those are ceiling prices. Those are based off of quantity one, right? So then that's the absolute ceiling. So we do, tell our vendors, our customers, that they should absolutely ask for additional discounts. If you're buying one hammer for, $25, you're probably not gonna get a discount. If you're buying 4,000 hammers, you might wanna ask. And we actually make it pretty easy for them to do it. And so, of course, we're always updating the schedules. We're always going through, auditing, making sure all the pricing, is the best pricing. And so, because of this, like I was saying, the schedules are actually often used as a basis to make a blanket purchase agreement. So, all of these schedules, these are all self-service, right? So, if someone's going through GSA, right, the transaction is between the vendor and the buyer, right? So they're utilizing the GSA schedule, but it's not coming through us. So it's all self-service. So Kim had touched on this a little bit, which is that we do offer assisted acquisition. That is a service that GSA provides. Pretty much everything that we do as far as the buyer goes is free. So like, I assist with acquisitions, I am not assisted acquisition. Okay, that's a whole other department. And that's where you're using like a GSA contracting officers, GSA contracting specialists. It's turnkey. We do the whole thing. You guys write us a check at the end, and then we turn it over to you. So that there are fees that apply for it. There's it's not big, usually 2-3%. But we do offer it. Yeah, so not very popular like a take-home. So, you don't see that kind of stuff so much like in a contracting shop, because they got a whole building full of contracting officers. So if you even mention it, they kind of give you the hairy eyeball.
Yeah.
No, we're not doing that. But some of the smaller areas, it makes acquisitions faster, it reduces pulp, okay, which is the lead time.
But like a local municipality that wants to utilize a GSA schedule, or they could do that for 2-3%. And they could start purchasing, and you would do it all for them, basically, almost like, not quite, but turnkey.
Yeah, something like that. So you'd have to, there's a lot of variables that would play into it, but definitely, first we'd have to determine whether or not we can utilize the schedules, and then we kind of you guys call me, I set up like a meeting with our assistant
Like,
acquisition
is it
guys.
beneficial to GSA that we, like, push that out there with our local municipalities and local buying agencies, or is this something that?
So we have to determine which office it would go to for us, so all of them would always be case by case. So some, depending where the dollar threshold is, we have a special order program that's out of our Region 7 office in Texas, and then they might be handling that for us on behalf. So it all comes down to the size of those things.
So basically, if you see the need, maybe, but if you don't push it.
Right, I mean, if they're struggling and they can't get it done,
Right.
for sure, that would be the time you'd want to offer something.
Well, I think a lot of them are not even aware that they can extend and utilize the schedule in many cases. I just think there's a lack of awareness in general with local municipalities and, some organizations that they have this tool. I just don't think they know it.
Oh, okay.
And we aren't gonna open that can of worms unless you want us to. That's what I'm trying to say.
So I would say if they're starting with an S. Yeah.
You can make more money.
All right, so, like I said, there's over 28 million different products and services.
That's a lot.
And it changes. And so if there's something on there that's not quite what the customer needs, we will absolutely put it out there under this SIN and, allow our vendors the opportunity to go ahead and put it on the contract. So it's always growing. So, and of course, using a schedule, our buyers' requirements for, like small business and all the different socioeconomics they gotta hit, that all does pass through, so they get the credit for all that. And like I was saying, so we do tell our customers that, they can definitely seek, better pricing, because those are ceiling prices that are on there. So what we have, we talk about e-tools. You hear that a lot from GSA people. So these are what they are. So you have GSA Advantage. Okay, GSA Advantage is basically Amazon for feds. That's essentially what it is. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Amazon. I literally buy everything off Amazon. But remember that Amazon could care less about socioeconomics, right? Or about your compliance to the FAR, right? Or whether a company is ability one, or, or if an item is considered, disaster purchasing. So, we have Advantage that complies to all that. Okay, we have GSA Schedules e-Library. Schedules e-Library is a database that basically is all of the vendors that are on GSA schedules, all of the different contracts that they hold, okay, and their actual contract. So you can go in there and pull up their actual contract. I'm going to spend a little bit more time here on Advantage and e-Library, but I did want to touch on these last three. So e-buy, right, that is essentially FBO, but GSA's FBO. Okay, so it's like an extension of Advantage. And so this is where they're actually putting out the quotes, right, and where they're putting out we call them a request for information. They're called sources sought out on FBO, getting the industry feedback. So one of the benefits, again, of using GSA is that when a buyer, puts out a requirement, okay, on say FBO, basically everybody and their brother can go in there and bid on this thing. And then they gotta go through and they have to sort, all these things out. It takes forever, to try to evaluate all these. When they put it out there on eBuy, okay, it can only be bid on by companies that have already been vetted by GSA, who we already know offer these services and hold a contract under that particular SIN. So it saves a lot of time and saves them a lot of hassle.
So you guys think about this for a second. So e-library is your world of vendors, right? Everything you want to know about the vendor, their DUNS numbers in there, their contact information's in there. And what happens is it flows through to eBuy. So that when people go and put out a quote on there, that data is in there, and that's actually how that vendor receives that update that somebody's looking for a quote.
They can invite people to quote.
They can, right? But this is very important for you to tell your vendors that are out there. This is not updated by me, all right, or anyone at GSA. The vendor that's participating with GSA, it's their responsibility to make sure that their information in the schedule, e-library, e-buy is accurate. All right. Now, more times often than not, we get calls from our different vendors that says, I heard this RFQ was out on the street. I never got notified. Right? Well, in essence, if they're on there, anybody that's on that SIN, they're getting notified. Right? Well, who it goes to at their office is another story. So when Barb goes on vacation for 2 weeks, and then and he had Barb set up to receive all his emails, she's not getting it. He never saw the quote. Now it's closed, and he's not going to be able to bid on it, right? So this is what happens. Or Frank leaves the company. Right, and Frank was the main POC that's on there, and they never went back in and changed that information.
I can't emphasize how important it is for you guys to hammer home on their, when they finally do get on these things, they have got to make sure that they are constantly updating that information in e-library, in the contact in eBuy. Because all the time we hear that, they didn't get it, but they did. Because it goes out to everybody that's in our category.
I was gonna say, but Tom, I thought that you could, through e-library or eBuy, go out, if you're a federal buyer, wanting to buy something, that you could actually specify and individually invite people to quote without it going out to everybody under that.
So here's what happens. So those 10 people will actually get that specific email. Vendors, every day they go in and they log in, and they'll be able to see if there's anything in the category of their sin. If it's in the category of their sin, they can go in and bid on it. So you can notify 10 people directly, but vendors will also be able to participate if they go in there and find it.
Okay,
So
if they find it.
Right.
Because the big thing when this all started was the rule of, 3 quotes, you have to get the 3 quotes and just invite 3 people to quote and, I've met my threshold and all is good. So there's no real market research there.
Right, well, there's a couple things with that. So the average person gets 3 to 5 offers when they hit the entire schedule. So when you're talking to your buyers at the city and state that are looking to do that, they'll probably get 3 to 5 offers that come through. And if they pick those 10, that's wonderful, they can do that, and hopefully that'll remain the same. In our Schedule 70, SIN 13250, there's like 3,200 vendors that are in there. I mean, just imagine having to do the evaluations on something like that. So that's when they'll try to go in and only pick a few, but even when we see those, we only see 5 to 7 responses when they go through it that way. Now, to your point about the picking 3, when he shows you GSA Advantage in a few minutes, or those slides that he's going to show you, if you simply went to GSA Advantage, everybody's competing prices are on there. So if you're looking for a quantity of 1, which is what they're all priced at on there, without asking for a discount, one's at $200, one's at $210, and one's at $220. You simply can print that page and accomplish your goal of saying that, yeah, look, you're even better than GSA. So, and then do it that way. Because most of these are going to be in the micro purchase threshold areas anyway, even though the states aren't, set up, the same way the feds are, for that. So it could be done either way.
Okay. Got 2 questions. One, how many total schedules are there currently?
24.
24 currently. And then in terms of SINs, that's special item numbers?
Right.
Okay, so.
Like 930, I think.
Right, so 930 of those, but is there a list that correlates a SIN to an NSN maybe?
So as far as, no, there's not,
No.
because an NSN is a part number for an item, right? So,
Right.
So,
It's not a unique.
Right.
All they do have, they have a tool out, it's the NAICS crosswalk, so it'll relay your NAICS code to a SIN.
And the DLA has put out a crosswalk between the SINs and some of their NSNs.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if our global supply website might be able to do that. Because the global supply is very similar to your DLA, for the NSN part numbers, separate from all of this.
Right.
So.
Just access what DLA has already done. For God's sakes, don't do another one.
I have to look into that.
Good God.
All right, so moving on. So Acquisition Gateway, this is a website that allows our customers, the buyers, to go in there and utilize all kinds of different GSA tools. Cost estimators, calculators. They have like 150,000 preloaded labor rates. So it helps them get an idea of the cost. They have another tool there called eBuy Open. So eBuy Open is the back end of eBuy.